The law of diminishing marginal returns. As more units of a factor of a variable factor of production are added to other constant factors of production, the returns to the variable factor will eventually fall. If we look at the case of labour as a variable factor of production and land as a fixed factor of production. So for example, if you think of a bakery which has one cook or one baker, then the more bakers you add to that particular premises, the returns to each additional unit of labour will eventually fall because, as we know, the old saying goes, too many cooks spoil the broth. As always, we have assumptions governing the law of diminishing marginal returns. The first one is it assumes the quality of extra variable factors employed is constant. That means that we assume that each additional unit of labour, for example, in this case, is the same quality of worker as the previous one that had been employed. The second thing is that it applies to the short run only. As we know, in the long run, all factors of production are variable. That is, in the long run, if a company survives into the long run, then we assume that they may add additional premises or additional units of land. So all factors of production are variable. The third thing is that the same production methods are being used. We do not assume here that if an additional unit of labour is employed, that additional unit of labour comes with a machine or begins using a machine which would increase productivity and the return to factors of production. Let's go back to the short run average cost curve of a firm that we had looked at in the previous video. Let's look at the relationship between the marginal cost and, in the short run, the average cost curve. When marginal cost, that is this curve here, is less than the average cost curve, which is here, we can see that average cost is falling while marginal cost is rising. That means if marginal cost is less than average cost and average cost is falling, then we see that we should produce more units because marginal cost will rise, but average cost of each extra unit produced will fall. Second of all, when marginal cost, this curve here, is greater than the average cost, we can see that average cost is rising. That means we have gone above the most efficient point, that we are producing too many units, that with the average cost is rising of each unit, as is the marginal cost. The optimal point is where MC is at the lowest point of AC. When MC is equal to AC, then the average cost is at its minimum.